Speak up. Speak up! The cloth you wear entitles you to say what you please.
I've studied mathematics, Mr. Galloway.
That might be a good thing if it led you to admit that 2 times 2 is sometimes 4.
For 3 nights I haven't been able to sleep, Mr. Galloway. I can't figure out how to reconcile the decree, which I've read, with the satellites of Jupiter, which I've seen. So I decided to read Mass this morning and come to see you.
To tell me that Jupiter has no satellites?
No. I recognize the wisdom of the decree. It showed me how dangerous unrestricted inquiry can be to mankind, and so I've decided to give up astronomy. Still, I felt I had to acquaint you with the motives which compel me, even though I'm an astronomer, to desist from pursuing a certain doctrine.
I can assure you that such motives are well known to me.
I understand your bitterness. You're thinking of certain exceptional means of pressure exerted by the church.
Don't beat about the bush. Instruments of torture.
Yes, but I'd like to speak of other motives. Forgive me if I talk about myself. I grew up in the Campagna. My parents are peasants, simple folk. They know all about olive trees, but very little else. As I observe the phases of Venus, I can see my parents sitting by the stove with my sister, eating lasagna. I see the beams over their heads, blackened by the smoke of centuries. I see distinctly their work-worn old hands and the little spoons they hold in them. They're very poor, but even in their misery, there's a certain order. There are cyclic rhythms, scrubbing the floors, tending to the olive trees in their seasons, paying taxes. There's a regularity in the calamities that descend on them. My father's back wasn't bowed all at once. No, a little more with each spring in the olive grove. Just as the childbearing that made my mother more and more sexless occurred at regular intervals. What gives them the strength to sweat up stony paths with heavy baskets, to bear children, even to eat, is the feeling of stability and necessity that they get from the sight of the soil, of the trees turning green every year, of their little church standing there and hearing Bible verses read every Sunday. They've been assured that the eye of God is upon them, searching and almost anxious that the whole worldwide stage is built around them, in order that they, the players, may prove themselves in their great or small roles. What would my people say if I were to tell them that they were living on a small chunk of stone that moves around another star, turning incessantly in empty space, one among many and more or less significant? What would be the good or necessity of their patience, of their acquiescence in their misery? What would be the good of the Holy Scripture, which explains everything and demonstrates the necessity for their sweat, patience, hunger, and submission, if it turns out to be full of errors? No, I can see their eyes waver. I can see them rest their spoons on the table. I can see how cheated and betrayed they feel. In that case, they will say, no one is watching over us. Must we, old, untaught, and exhausted as we are, look out for ourselves? No one has given us a part to play, only this wretched roll on a tiny star, which is wholly dependent, around which nothing turns. There is no sense in our misery. Hunger means no more than going without food. It is no longer a test of strength. Effort means no more than bending and carrying. There is no virtue in it. Can you understand now, by the decree of the holy congregation, I discern a noble motherly compassion, a great goodness of soul?
Goodness of soul? Don't you simply mean that there's nothing left?